Hey everyone. Golly, mixed lot here tonight. I'm a little bit late, sorry. Hang on. Golly, mixed lot here tonight. I'm a little bit late, sorry. Hang on. The chat window was open on my PC, which gives me feedback. That's a bit of a nuisance. Anyway, fixed. Hey everyone. I can't go through and sort of make sure I got everyone, but Chirpy, g'day. Sorry about the hot weather. Joseph, g'day. Ted, good to see you. Video from Ted this week, TMC 2020 entry. That's pretty awesome. Go and check it out. Mark Osborne, good day. Casual Steel, good day. Matty, hello. Another TMC video from Matty. This week, good video, worth a look. John Creasy, g'day. Shout out to John, who did an awesome job on a thread for me this week. Matt Peterson, g'day. The Necklace Workshop, g'day. Go and check out the Necklace Workshop, new channel. You really need to probably go and subscribe to that. If you right click his name and then where it says open profile, do that, right click it and do it in a new window and subscribe now. Do it now. Go Create, g'day, is another person you should probably go and subscribe to if you haven't already. Machine NZ, Kevin, g'day. Waza, g'day. Peter Noddle, hello. Michael Edwards, hello. Craig must be there, g'day. Stephen Lang is a fellow judge on the TMC 2020. Be nice to him. The cup's going to be fine, John. We have an issue that the workbench isn't big enough, but we're working on this as a work in progress this week. You may see bigger workshops, bigger workbenches by the end of the week. Darren, g'day. AIDS Workshop, hello. So, where do we start? TMC 2020. I've got a list. Hang on. Big list. I would like to pretend I'm all organised. I'm not. That cup, by the way, that John's talking about, YouTube Machinist Group on Facebook. It's their merch or our merch. You should go and check that out. Paddy, you're wrong. G'day. It's green. Tommy Gun Machining, two videos from him this week for TMC 2020. You need to check them out. Yep, it's not a drill press. You're wrong. Chirpy's not going to make it, and that's all right. Joseph's onto it. So TMC 2020, we've had a couple of entries, or a few interesting entries actually this week. They're starting to heat up. One from Aaron Engineering in Melbourne on a setup jig for a CNC mill. It's a pretty cool video. Lots of stuff that I don't know very much about. There was two from Tommy Gun Machining, and they're both eligible entries, and they're both very, very good. And they're both forces to be reckoned with, because if you haven't seen them, you probably should go and have a look. Tom's there's a shaper, Craig. This place is... I actually do some work here, so stuff's everywhere, and I just bang this on the bench, and my only clean bit of bench, until I find somewhere else to put it. So there you go. The cone of cleanliness is not normally this big, so you can... Anyway. That's a Drummond Model A, I think. Shaper. John Creasy had a birthday too, by the way. You should all wish him happy birthday. Go and check out his videos and subscribe to his channel. So there was two videos from Tommy Gunn. They're both very, very good. That's kind of his defending champion, and he's got some tools to give away that he really wants to keep for himself. So it's worth the extra effort. But they're pretty good. There was also one from Ted Rosa. Nice vice stop. Go and check that out. And there was another one from Matty's workshop, which is always good. Matty's videos are always good. You should check him out. It's one of the up and coming video stars on YouTube. I think he's pretty good. He makes some nice tools. So I was going to count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 entries into TMC 2020. That's not a bad effort. We've still got 3 weeks to go, so I'm guessing that all you guys, that think you've only got, what's today's the 8th? You've got 3 weeks left or something like that. There's going to be a bit of last minute panic involved, but still expect videos from everyone. Anyway, I got a new toy. It's not working yet. Answer all your questions. We're going to move in a bit closer because this board out here on the end's a bit of a pain. And if I move around in front, you can't hear me. Craig's into last minute panic, and Maddie's got time for a third and we can't wait. And Darren says, has it got one of those funky cone drive reverse things? Sort of, yes. I've got really not winning with this whole camera mount thing. Sorry. What this workshop doesn't have, besides bench space, is room to... It's got bench space. The problem is that we haven't got storage space for all this stuff. That's where our issue is. Okay. Adventures with a very small lathe. You've got 3 weeks. You're not late for another 3 weeks. You know what I'm talking about. But good to see you, Alistair. The floor isn't a shelf, apparently. Anyway, this is a hip swirl tapping machine, just so we know. I'm going to move this back on the bench a bit because while putting it up here was a really good idea, it's pretty heavy. Don't know much about it. If anyone does know anything about it, get in touch. And at this point it's green and it's not a bad job, and it's been painted nice and it's not in bad condition, so it's probably going to stay green. Instagram Bob had loads of info. Yes, he knew a little bit about it. I don't reckon this is original colour, and it's certainly been repainted at some point. I was going to take this cover off so we can actually see how it works. Way too close here, probably. Yeah, that's not going to work. Seriously? Anyway, I'm just going to walk you around this for a minute. This has got a belt that runs around both pulleys from here on a shaft, and it's got a drive pulley here. It's got a motor bracket here, and I've got a motor that come off my milling machine that I'm probably going to put straight on this. I don't think there's a lot wrong with that motor. It should bolt nearly. Compton Parkinson motor should bolt on there nearly straight away, and it needs a pulley to drive this belt, the second pulley in here. So it sort of is a vertical hole mill acre, I guess. If we're going to be pedantic about it, that's what it is. It's got a round belt on here, which runs around here. And one of these pulleys runs backwards and one of the pulleys runs forwards. And it's got a counterweight on the back and a lever here. There. And 2 cone clutches. So what happens is that this cone clutch, when there's force pushing down on the tap or pushing up on the tap to tap in, it runs backwards. And then when you release this, it stops. And when there's force pulling up on the tap, it runs backwards. So that's how it works. Right, it's suitable for up to about, I think, 6mm taps in brass and aluminium, or 6mm taps in steel, I think the sales brochure said, and 8mm or something in brass and aluminium. I'm not sure about that. I guess you could reverse it if you wanted to. It sounds like a good way to break taps. Never put a reamer in it, no. Hey, Tinker, good to see you. So, this was made in Sydney. Not very much information about Hipsley's Limited. Engineers and Merchants. They've been around for over 100 years that I can see. They were certainly got charged with racketeering after First World War, which is probably like any sustainable business in Australia. Don't know where you get this woven. There's a join there, I think. But don't know where you get this woven round belt. If anyone knows, it's about probably 3/8, something like that, 7/16 diameter. It might have been 1/2 inch once. Hey, Dennis. So it's all there. It's all got... Everything's pretty tidy on it. It's got this stop, which I guess is for holding the part down or to slide your part under so the tap doesn't lift it out when it runs backwards. That's what I imagine this is for. This table's adjustable. It's got a ding in there that I didn't know when I saw it and bought it. This is the depth adjustment on here. So if we screw this up, then we don't have much travel here. McMaster car, yeah, that's good. So it needs a motor and a pulley and a belt, and probably taken apart in a good clean, because I don't know how good these clutches are inside and what's inside them, and they probably wouldn't hurt to get cleaned out before I start breaking taps with it. But there we go. Didn't come with a free tap, no. It's a pretty big O-ring. It is adjustable for tension here, so you can move this backwards and forwards to tighten the belt up. So, not sure about that. We'll try and chase that up though. Anyway. They sell rubber round belts in that size. Thanks, Paddy. G'day, Glenn. I mean, I'm down for plastic belts, but I reckon that I'm not going to trust that one too much, to be honest. It might do another stretch, but I'm sick of holding this camera. So we're going to put this up somehow, probably. There we go. Thanks, Craig, for the link. Anyway, there we go. This camera mount system is sort of temporary. We're working on that. We're thinking of something better, actually, while we have time. Anyway. That's one of those stupid impractical purchases that no one can be without, and it was the right price. Some friends brought it up from Sydney for me, and it's probably potentially a pretty good machine. I'm going to need to make some more bench space for it though. is what's going to have to happen. It does have the original motor mount on there, so a matter of putting a motor on it so that it lines up with the pulleys, I guess, at some point. See, bench is nice and clean again. It's not really, but anyway. Probably, JB, that's what's going to happen. Tommy, thanks for that. Appreciate the link. Minimum quantity of 87 belts, yep. Melbourne ain't going anywhere. Melbourne's back on 6 weeks lockdown. G'day, Judy and Randy. I missed you, I think. I saw your chat pop up earlier. Anyway, what else have I done this week? I got a parcel from John Creasy today. Which is this backplate back again. John put a thread in it. It's not too shabby, really. It's probably, I think, a fraction looser than I would like. But, all things considering, it's not too bad. And we'll get in and fit the spacer ring to it and machine on the back of it and probably mount the chuck on it. Maybe that's a job for this weekend. There won't be much Teflon tape on it. That sounds like a Tommy gun machining sort of a trick that I'm probably not going to try. Probably due to the dings in the thread, that's right. It's probably also due to my measuring ability. It fits the thread nicely, but my spindle's probably a little bit worn too, I think. What size thread is it? It's inch by 10, sort of, almost. And I apologise for the dings in the thread, John. But thanks heaps for doing that. Can't even see the thread here now. I'm sure it's here. I think it's going to be fine. I think the thread's going to be great. It's not too shabby at all. It might have been a bit of a problem if it was too tight, but it's not bad at all. It's going to be fine. This weekend I've been messing around. I guess everyone saw Instagram posts. Everyone probably saw that I'd put up a new Patreon video and as a consequence released another Stuart 400 video. I am sorry that they're so far behind. I didn't intend them to get that far back, but we're about 15 episodes behind on YouTube. If you want up to the minute stuff, go and pay $1 at Patreon. Happy to, they're on there. And the last video that, don't actually, just wait and see, or email me and I'll send you the relevant one. It's not a big deal. But big thanks to anyone who does. So this week's work on this is a conrod. Look at that. How cool is this? A little bit impressed with this, actually. More than impressed. This is kind of pretty epic. Shiny Crankcrag, yeah, I ended up having to sand this off or grind it off because this is hard. Ended up grinding that off to clear the conrod because it was touching there. So that works. It's still not as perfect as I would like. I'm going to mess with it and probably it's going to run in, but there's no slop in that and there won't be any knock in it, I don't think. I'm really happy with that. It doesn't move backwards and forwards too much coming in and out, so these must be somewhere near straight to each other, which I'm really pleased about, and also this way, which I was worrying about. And it still needs oil hole in here and oil holes in the front, in the gudgeon there, etc, etc, etc. And it probably needs a spacer in here. I'm still working out what I'm going to do there. I've still got like somewhat white fingernails, so it didn't get me bad, but it did bite me. There'll be another one out tomorrow, so another update on this tomorrow. We'll try and get this catched up. There will be a splash tray for Ted, and I think that's a really smart idea, is to put a guard around here, even if it's just a short one. I'm probably just going to put a short guard on here. You haven't actually seen me build a guard yet. I'm just saying that it hasn't happened. It's all talk. I'm going to put 2 screws in here maybe, and just a guard around here, up to about here, I think, around one. Because if you put your finger there and kick it over, there's not a lot of clearance there, and that bolt will take your finger off, take the end of your finger off, or this is like a little guillotine, this, when it comes round. So I'm just going to put a little splash guard on there, and it might stop some of the oil disappearing out over the shoulder too. Yeah, it might make it a nice guard too. I was going to roll something up out of brass and then put like a half round bar around the top of it and roll it up, or I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But anyway, that's going backwards and forwards. Fairly pleased with that. It's about top dead centre there. So cylinder head will have about a 4mm boss that goes in this hole, and then the valves will open 3 or 4mm too, so that should bring us down to having enough space in there for some compression, or some serious compression, or enough to make it run. It needs to be sympathetic though, Matty. It needs to be nice. So, this engine's starting to look pretty good. There's next thing really with this, after I do some fiddling about, I've got to make a proper gudgeon pin with Teflon ends. I've got to drill this and put a pin in it. It's important. Probably this has got a bit of end float here, and depending on where we are with this, I'm sort of thinking to bring this up as far as we can, so we've got as much sticking out on the end as we can. And I might make a hard or otherwise thrust bearing to go in here to run against the cast iron, because the end of this gear is running straight on the cast iron, which isn't ideal, and it's got a bit of a noise when you pull it right back there like that. So while it's got the best clearance there back in this position, I think that it wouldn't hurt to have something behind there maybe. We'll see how this looks, because we might, not sure about that, but we've got to get a pin in there, and we've got to get some of this end float out of here. I think it would help if I did that up tight. We've got a scraping noise there because that gear's back on there. So there we go. Hey Raymond. Got a nice piece of iron chirpy to do them. There next. There's a nice piece of cast iron in the box ready to go on that. Valves should be closed at top dead centre. Yes, they should. That's the theory. But you're probably right there. That's very true, Joseph. That's a good point. Hey, Rust Knox. So, starting to be pleased with this. This is going to be a fun job. This is the cylinder head. Right. Firstly, we've got to get two holes right through here with enough space in them for ports that line up with these two holes here and parallel to the back face. We've got to machine this down probably about 4mm, something like that, and we've got to put 3 bolts in it, one here and one here and one here, to bolt onto the cylinder head. And we've got to put a spark plug hole in the top here, and then there's a slot in the back that meets up with that to allow that spark come into the combustion chamber. And then there's got to be 2 holes in here that come through and intersect with these 2 holes that come through this way. And they're, what, 9/16, half inch, something like that. Bit scary, that. And then this one's got to be drilled and tapped. For the fork for the rocker arm. So there's a bit of work in that, and it's not fun work, and it's, the cast iron's still an unknown quantity, but if it's as good as the piston was this time, we shouldn't have any issues with it. This has got a bigger spark plug in it. It's an 10mm metric NGK. It's over there somewhere in the box. It should look pretty good on there though, I think. It's a fairly big plug, but it's going to look good on there. So get some of them holes in there and some valves in and some piston rings. I'm going to be feeling a lot more like this is going to go. But hey Willem. At this point, the valves are steel, Joseph. Yeah. Write me an email or send me a note or something if you've got lots of input into this because I'm not a mechanic. I'm not even sure I can make the thing so it's got compression. Until about 2 days ago, I wasn't even sure that I was going to be able to make the thing so that everything was straight enough to turn over. But we got that far, so the rest's looking better. You take care, Rust Knox. We appreciate you calling in, but we miss your videos, so get better. And Tinker, yes, it needs a gasket on it as well, of some sort, I guess. I hope it's something that they can sort out, Rustanox. There's we're all probing here. We're all waiting for answers on this, but Mike, if there's anything we can do, drop us a video or email or something, and we'll see if we can sort something out. Anything at all, let us know. Let's have a look at this spark plug. Hang on, guys. Probably sheet copper, something like that, or asbestos, or I might get some asbestos sheet or some fibre sheet or something, I'm not sure. Something I can cut easy, and something I know is going to seal without stripping threads. This is a spark plug. It's a 10mm NGK. See if I can focus on that. I haven't got hope, I don't think, but we can try. It's a CM6. Yeah, I'm not winning there. But this screws in the top here on this angle, right? So it goes in. Have a look. To there like that. Something like that. In the center there. There's going to be a long or a slot here about 14mm by 3mm, something like that, if we can possibly manage it, which goes all the way through to the spark plug. So it's probably super critical, but it's probably not going to. It's probably going to have to see if it works. It won't be, certainly won't be back here in the combustion chamber. It'll be out here. So that's how we're going with that. So that's probably not even a big deal. I'm going to drill this and tap it. I've got a tap for it. It's 10mm by 1, I think, 1.25, maybe 10 by 1.25. Sound right? Not sure. It's a spark plug thread anyway. Not going to be anywhere near that complicated, Ted. And all it's got is a... Let's have a look at the drawings. This is a drawing. which isn't much use, but it's sort of okay. So we've got a thread here, and then we've got a slot in here, which, looking at the back of it, it's like this. This was actually cored in 90 out of 100 is okay. There's only about that crossing the road in some cities. If you happen to live in Bangladesh, it's only about half that chance of crossing the road. You're going to do all right, Rusty. You're going to get out of this all right. Hey, Stefan. So that's the slot there. And it's got a hole. This is 5/16 hole here for the hot tube, but we're going to tap it out to 10mm. And then it's got two holes in the back here, just off center here, just below center, for the valves, which should come through the front of the casting there, in the center of those bits, I hope. That's the theory. And then it's got three holes here for bolting down. It's got a hole in the center. If we look at the bottom of this manifold, it's got a hole here and exhaust and an inlet manifold underneath, like so. So not all that good with that. Yeah, get well soon, Rusty. If there's anything you can do, give us a shout out. And we do miss you, yeah. Anyway, Joseph, it is an odd design. And it's an odd design because the thing's sort of evolved from a very early model up to about 1922. And it's a very, very basic machine that didn't really... Take care, Richard. Good to see you. This 5:30 thing is not much fun. Yeah, enjoy that. So thanks, Tinker. It's a bit of a job getting everything going. I've also got to work out some sort of radiator. That was the thing. Thanks for dropping in, Rust Knox. Really appreciate it, and I hope you're feeling better soon. And they're sort of on top of it. Yes, there's 2 pages, Joseph, or 3 or 4 pages in the back of this book. If anyone builds an engine, don't start with a design in an old textbook from the 1920s, because that's silly. Just so you know. It's got the information on running it on Spark. So... spark plug and a trembler coil, and how to wire it up, and a dry cell or accumulator, and a negative wire, and it's got all the bits that we've made for the spark on the side here. We've got the spark cam here, and the trembler, and it's all insulated up with a thumb new scale screw, and everything's timing adjusted, all that sort of stuff. That's all on there. So the cam looks something like this, and then there's a contact, and that's all put in, and that's how the spark plug goes to get in there like that. Which it says a miniature 14mm spark plug. Well, this is a bit smaller than that. So that's sort of one ignition system. The other one's this drawing here. Right way up. And there's a burner and a hot tube, which looks like this, which screws in with a lock nut, and it's got a closed tip. These are a bit dangerous, really. And a little chimney that sits on there, and that's what this boss here is for, is the support for the chimney, and that's height adjustable, and the burner goes in the side with a gas burner. That's all fun, but it's not particularly practical, and it's not particularly good for inside, and it's not particularly good for outside. So there's sort of, it's a difficult thing. So spark seems to be better. But that'll probably work. If I can get compression, I've got all the rest. If I can get compression, which means valves and rings, if I can do that, then the thing will probably run, I think. But yeah, hot tube's pretty temperamental and not particularly safe. They tend to blow the top out of the tube, and also fairly difficult to time, and probably not particularly safe, and you can't see where the spark actually is. So there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to the Knackler's Workshop, new channel. Check that out. Low compression, I'm hoping that I can get about 7-to-1, something like that out of it, but I'm not sure I will. So there you go. I think it would probably work at 5-to-1, something like that, but that's only what I've read. But the sharper the compression, the more likely it is to go. So that's what we're aiming for. Warren says it'll run. He's got confidence. You've got to have confidence, Wazza, but I haven't got any confidence at all, to be honest. And if I'm really honest, I didn't have confidence that this would even turn over until it actually did. So there's not a lot of clearance there, but there's enough. And there's the same amount on the other side, which is really awesome. I must have done something right. The closest point there. We can still get a piece of writing paper in there and a bit more. So it's probably 15 thou. You're right, Joseph. There's too much dead space in it. Take care, Journeyman Randy. Good to see you. Yeah, we'll see. We fixed this problem with a Riffler file here. I think it was just... We had issues with this, and I was a bit worried about this touching, and it doesn't, which is pretty awesome. I haven't actually cleaned this out here. I've brought the bolts closer together and taken this down a little bit shorter and rounded that off because there's a bit of a there's a bit of draft angle in the bottom here because this was cast in 2 parts. So at this point it clears, but not by very much. Joseph's right. I think the deeper the head sits, the better will be a good guiding. And we've got plenty of meat here, so we can take this down to probably 4 or 5 millimeters thick. So if we have to, we can drop the head back in, what, 5, 6 millimeters. This has still got to have an oil hole in here, and it was drawn with a little oil cap on here. Screw-in oil cap. I'm really not thinking that's going to happen because I have a life, and it looks like something that'll go missing pretty quick and be fairly fiddly to screw in there, to be honest. So what I'm probably going to do is just leave that open and just put an oil hole in here that we can top up. I don't think the inertia and the centrifugal force will push the oil out the wrong way. I'm not sure about that. I guess we'll find out. Kevin, are the rings going to be cast iron? Really good question. One with no real answer, to be honest. No, I've got a piece of cast iron bar here somewhere. I thought I could lay my hand on it, but I can't. But it's just going to be decent, like ductile iron. A nice piece like this, that's not going to be it, but it's similar to that. It's a bit smaller diameter. And I don't think we'll bust the studs, to be honest, Ted. Oil cup shaming. Cheating out on the oil cup. Look, it's going to be about a 3mm thread, right? 3/16 by 40, something like that, with a knurled top on it. The issue with oil cup lids like that is that they go missing. You put them down and lose them, or they fall out when you move in the engine, or something like that, no matter how well they're screwed on. Everything I ever made with lift on or screw on oil caps or terminals or whatever seems to be missing them. So there we go. We'll see. But at this point, I'm probably just going to put an oil hole in there, and you can hit it with the oil can every now and again and hope that it doesn't, centrifugal force doesn't empty the bearing, which might be a real thing. I'm not sure. Someone might have thoughts on that. It's a good excuse to use the fancy tapping machine. Yeah, it's a good excuse to break a tap. It has got a hole, or it will have a hole, I believe, halfway along the piston on top of the gudgeon pin, and a hole in the gudgeon pin bush, so that this oiler here, wipe oiler, collects a little bit of oil and you get a secondary drip inside to oil the gudgeon. So that's something that I've still got to do. So at this point, the thing's going to run 5 minutes probably every now and again. I don't think it's going to sit down and do any serious work, but we'll see. we can fix this end oiling and get all this pretty good. This one here, look, I don't want to have to get the screwdriver out and screw his tiny little stud out of there and oil it and screw it back in every time. It's just a pain, and it sort of halves your oil reservoir space in there too if you do put a plug in it, so we'll see. The engine that I almost built instead of this was W.S. Ferren's workshop engine, which is a little vertical enclosed crankcase engine, about the same dimensions or a little bit bigger. It didn't happen because it was a much more complicated engine, but that had pressure lube, aircraft style pressure lube to all oil points, and I would have been at another 12 months, I reckon. But it's 1906, 1907 in Model Engineer. W.S. Ferren serialised that, and it was a really nice looking engine. I don't know if any of them were ever built, but this is a much simpler thing. And the reason I picked this one was because it's the simplest one of the lot. Of the 6 or 7 that I looked at, this was the simplest one. Jason, good to see you. Thanks for the link earlier. Is it a kit engine? It was. In the mid-20s, it was a kit engine from Stuart Turner. I can see why it's not, put it that way. I can see why this engine isn't a kit engine. There are a lot of reasons why no one would have bought the kit. But anyway. Where would you get the casting for the old W.S. Ferren engine? Craig, that's an excellent question, but probably the same place I got the castings for this, to be honest. That's where we're at with that. Any of the 5 or 6 or 7 engines or whatever I looked at would have been exactly the same thing. None of them were bar stock engines, and they all would have been kind of start from scratch engines, and that's a silly idea. Take care, Stephen. It's good to see you. Go and level that grinder tonight because it's annoying me. So this is the simplest engine, right? And the least number of bits, and the easiest to probably get running, and probably one of the nicest looking ones, and the one the most information about. John Mills, Double Boost, had one of these that he spent a bit of time and pulled it down and makes some good videos, and they've been very helpful. Now he's passed that on to his DRO guy, who's actually, or his indicator guy, whose name is Bob, who's also been fairly helpful in measuring things and that sort of thing. So that was another reason to get this, to build this one, was because I got one to copy. Andrew Whale has got a nice Farm Boy engine. That's a really nice engine, and Machine NZ's got one too. But the Farm Boy engine for a machine from Solid Engine is pretty nice looking thing. I'm kind of loving his videos at the moment. He does some pretty cool stuff. Tinker John's was an Upshur, I think. I don't think it was a I don't think it was the same engine as the Farm Boy. Andrews is a much nicer engine than that. The Farm Boy's pretty good thing. Joseph, no one can get castings easily. There was about 250 hours, something like that, in the patterns. I haven't got any of them here to show you because Clark Easterling in Mississippi's got them, and I'll probably collect them from him next year or something like that and bring them back just to have them on display maybe, or he can keep them. And I've had these cast, and there was a lot of work in the castings, and there was a lot of work in machining the castings and getting castings that were machinable. And the flywheel come from an American company that makes flywheel castings. That was a fairly easy thing. I've got a spare one if anyone wants one, or it might go to the next engine, something like that. Realistically though, there's no easy way to make an engine like this. Tinker John is very hard to watch. That's a bit harsh. I think it's the whiskers, to be honest. We all only watch Tinker John 63. This is getting towards 63 videos. I'm not going to judge that because it's going to happen to me one day. But I actually make things. I don't just show things I make. I'm getting to the point that it's easy just to make them and show them afterwards, but I try not to with these videos. And I'm up to 22, 23, 24, something like that. Maybe. Yeah, there's a couple of A and B part videos. So I'm up to 24. The next one will be about the 25th video on this, I think. And that'll be piston rings, I think. And also, Paddy and Joseph, sorry, poor Tinker John. The other thing is finding someone who can cast these to your patterns and end up with castings that are going to be machinable. Because my patterns on all sorts of levels could have been much, much better. If I'd put a ring around the top of the piston on the casting pattern on both sides, that would have solved a lot of problems with this casting, because there's not enough body in here and you get chill on this side and this side in this casting. So this is all right because there's plenty of metal here, but we get chill here, which is the last place that the iron runs to, and here. So if we'd left a ring around the outside on each side and cast, and the same on the core to match up, and cast that into it and machined it off later, we wouldn't have had the problems with the hardness in the piston. If we'd put more radius around here, we probably wouldn't have had the same problems with hardness in these that we've got, and a bit more radius on here. So they're things you learn. There was chill in here because there was probably sand wash out from turbulence in here where the metal changed, brushed in and then changed direction through here. So there's more to pattern making than meets the eye, and there's more to casting from patterns than meets the eye. I mean, we all know that. Lost wax bronze is a really good way to go. You get some beautiful things out of that. We're bug Tommy gun machining enough, he might make a traction engine. Seriously, there's some good Stewart models that aren't crazy expensive. $200 Australian buys a Progress, which is a fairly pretty little engine. It's a good beginner's engine. John Tom's a really good start. The chill spot's finished. It's on this piston. Fixed. No problems. It wasn't really a huge issue. But, and especially on this last lot that had a lot more iron in the top and they took a lot longer to cool. We fixed that the second time round, but the first piston had hard spots all the way through it. And the first cylinder heads that come had hard spots all the way through them, and I hope we fixed that as well. So this isn't actually chill from the metal cooling off too quick. This problem that we had in here is from sand washout. So there's actual sand in the cast iron, and that makes it very difficult. Machining sand is very, very difficult. Myford Boy's got some beautiful engines. And I think he'd be more than helpful with patterns and things too if you wanted to cast them yourself. I think he would be more than helpful with drawings and things. David Few, if you have a look on Instagram, has just finished a one of Elmer's little engines. I saw your notes before and I ignored them. I've got 2 boilers here and one of them belongs to Chirpy, and I'm going to get onto that before too long and get it sent, and then there'll be no excuse not to do something, Chirp. We're going to surprise you one of these days when this whole epidemic's getting a bit better. Anyway, that's model engineering. It's crazy. Projects like this are a bit epic because I started off with about 10 pages in an old textbook and a couple of sticks of wood, and I've got an engine. But to be honest, buying Stewart castings might have been cheaper. It's how it is. Anyway, that's where we're at. And that's what's happening in my workshop. To be honest, yeah, it's the difficult bit's going to be the cylinder head. If we can get piston rings in and some sort of compression, I think we're well on the way. So, what's everyone's favourite TMC 2020 video? We've got to judge these, and there's 18 or something. What did I say? 18. Cam at Battler sent one in. Fixer of Broken Stuff sent one in. Matty sent in 2. Go Create Hobby sent in an excellent video. Absolutely excellent. Rustanox sent in a good video. Joshua Reach sent in a good video. JB from Oz sent in a good video. PGS had a video which probably is the shortest one he's ever made. But well worth look. Mark Presley entered, which is one of the big YouTube video channels here in Australia. Mark's a great guy. Aid's Workshop entered. Aid had a really good video too. Works by Solo entered. Mats Peterson entered. He made a very good video. You should check him out. Another little YouTube. Adventures in Trial and Error did a good video on camera tripod. Aaron Engineering did a good video. Tommy Gun Machining did 2 good videos. They're not too shabby. I mean, as far as videos go, they're all right. You can watch them. Poppy did a video. That one come in this week. That's awesome. Go and check. Poppy's got an awesome channel. Yeah. And Ted Rose has sent in a video. And Poppy, so that's 19. Tommy Gun. And also Go Create. Both made drawings for their projects. So if you want a project, a tool making project, and we all need another tool making project, Go Create. If you hit up Nigel or hit up Tom Wanzi, Tommy Gun Machining, they've both got drawings for sale, and they're both, I can vouch because I don't take favourites. I supported both of them, and they're both pretty good drawings, and they both seem to be tools that work, and they're nicely made things, and both fairly simple little projects once you get into them. I think it was a degree ring for his rotary table. That's what I got out of it. He made on a Sher line, so that makes everything twice as hard. But anyway, enjoyed his videos. So I'm going to plug those guys because they put a bit of effort into their drawings, and it's nice to give something to a channel and actually get something back. You can support me on Patreon for $1, but you don't get much back. You get occasional videos. So thanks, John. I saw that. Yeah. All funds will go to buying you a new micrometer. That's a good cause. You should totally go and buy those drawings because they were good value for money, really. There's a few pages there. All the information's there. And it's probably something everyone needs. Tinker's making a video, so that makes 20. That's awesome. So go and check out any of them. Go and look at the hashtag anyway and see what you can see. There's some cool stuff there. It's worth looking at. The playlist is down there in the description down the bottom. It was on his link was on his video, Craig. So that's all pretty exciting. Time's running out. You got 3 weeks, something like that. So I'm going to have to give some prizes away. One for cinematography, and one for workmanship and finish, and one for, oh gosh, what were the categories? I'm going to have to look that up. Sorry. But there's a, that's pretty slack. Best cackling, yeah. There's a Noga arm and a nice indicator. It's in black and white there, measurements, but that's nothing. And I'd be very, very pleased to have it. That's best overall video. Or cinematography, or best storyline, all those sort of things. That's awesome, Nigel. Best finish. Biggest tool, all those sort of things. So there's a bit of, I'm going to have to sit down and read the rules again before I start judging them. And be nice to Stephen Lang too. I'm expecting that it's going to be fairly difficult to award them, but I'm pretty excited. The craziest metrology workaround category, yeah. That's not crazy. That was sensible. That works. Anyway. We're getting on a bit, so I'm probably going to nearly call this a night. I think you're all getting sick of this. Really, really appreciate you all tuning in. I did want to say a bit of a thanks and a note about Dwayne Lindsay, who has been a patron right from the start of mine. He's been a patron from when I started. He also gave me a couple of nice tools, and I've met him a couple of times at the Summer Bash. And he had, I believe, ALS, and he passed away this last week. So it's a bit sad, really. He'd only recently got married to his longtime partner, and if Tina's watching this, or if she ever watches this, I wanted to say, yeah, we're thinking of you. And it's one of those things, I guess. That's awesome. Anyway. That's awesome, Go Create. I'm going to, Nigel, probably send anyone who enters out a bit of a questionnaire at the end of this to see what you actually did get out of it, because I've always been a little bit interested and I've never ever really asked. So if you do enter, expect to get some sort of a questionnaire with a few little questions on what you actually got out of it, which you've got no obligation to answer, but I would really like to find out what's actually happening there. Anyway, so with that, I want to say thanks, and thanks to everyone. You put a lot back into the community, Joseph. I hope you get a bit enough out of it to warrant it. Anyway, big thanks to everyone. Thanks to John Creasy for that thread job. Thanks to a couple of patrons who have helped out with this, with parts and things that are on their way. Really appreciate that. Thanks, Joseph, for your input too. Thanks to everyone who added a entry into the competition, and thanks to everyone in particular who went out of their way to find something to give away as a prize. Community is amazing. So anyway, thanks, and can't say that enough. Be kind to each other. More soon. And don't catch the virus, guys. Be safe. It's out there. I'm out.